Hello and welcome to Beyond Just Money. My name is Samta and with me today I have Miss Nidhi Sinha, who is the head of content for Kalkine Media Limited. Welcome to Beyond Just Money, Nidhi.
Thanks, Samta, for having me on the show.
Well, Nidhi, as you're aware that today we are going to talk about 5 golden rules to save money in 2021. So to begin with, there are various strategies that come under the scope of personal finance. Which are the ones that you would suggest to our listeners today?
You're right, Samta. There are various strategies and tools that come under the scope of personal finance. Some of them include making a budget, creating an emergency fund, regular investing in the equity market, and even debt instruments. Today, I will briefly take our listeners through the 5 golden rules of personal finance, which, if followed with discipline, can fast track anyone's way to their financial goals.
Well, that sounds absolutely great, Nidhi. So let's get going. So which is the first golden rule that you have with you?
Samta, the first rule is to use a tax break smartly. Taxes paid by an individual to the government can quickly add to a significant chunk of extra outflow of money over the years. That does not mean you don't pay taxes, Samta, but the trick is to pay them and manage them smartly. One can vastly reduce their tax outgo by using tax incentives wherever possible, Samta. I'll give you an example. So one can generate tax-free income by investing in specific tax-free instruments.
And let's talk about rule number 2 then.
Rule number 2 to keep in mind, Samta, is retirement planning, which is actually very, very important. One of the mistakes that most people make, Samta, is delaying planning for retirement, thinking they have a lot of time to do that. However, the more you delay planning for your golden years, the more difficult it becomes to achieve the desired corpus that you would want, because the time then becomes very short. To save a substantial corpus, you will need to utilize the power of compounding, which actually works wonder over a longer time period rather than a smaller time period, Samta.
Well, that's absolutely right, Nidhi. And if you talk about tax-free income and saving for the future, they're definitely the top 2 golden rules, as you mentioned. But what comes next?
Samta, debt is another aspect to consider. Debt can actually, be a massive burden on an individual's financial life. And it can be a very consistent source of cash outflow from your overall finances. High debt also reduces your ability to invest cash in productive assets like stocks and bonds and other investments. Therefore, it is imperative to first get out of any debt to eventually reduce the cash outflow that is happening and then channelize those savings into a productive instrument. So I'll advise our listeners to first get rid of debt in whatever way possible.
And Nidhi, how about budgeting? Like, how important do you think budgeting is?
Samta, budgeting is definitely the 4th golden rule of saving, and I was coming to it. It is one of the most effective tools to analyze the expenditure of a family or a person on a regular basis. It not only helps in monitoring the expenses, but also helps to optimize them by revealing, some of the unnecessary areas where you might be spending. After you create a budget, you really need to follow it strictly with discipline to see the final results, to really understand the benefits of budgeting.
And Nidhi, coming to the final golden rule that can help our listeners to save money, what is the 5th golden rule according to you?
It's a no-brainer, Samta, that the higher the income, the higher would be the savings. So if an individual has 2 or more, uncorrelated sources of income, then she would be having a higher chance to do financially well in life. It is not really difficult to create an additional source of income, Samta. You can invest in stocks for dividends or bonds for interest income. They are also going to add to your income sources. Investing for the longer term is the most crucial aspect of achieving financial freedom and a cornerstone of wealth creation. To get the benefit of compounding starting as early as possible is highly recommended. Also, one needs to invest in the long term and stay away from any short-term trading, as it is more difficult and requires a different kind of skill set altogether.
So Nidhi, overall financial planning can help an individual or business to have an adequate control on income, expenses and investments to save money. Is this what you want to say?
Definitely, Samta. In fact, there's more. Financial planning also allows the business entity or a person to adapt to changing market dynamics. However, it is advisable not to take any shortcuts and avoid investing in complicated financial instruments which you do not understand. Personal finance holds primary relevance for working professionals as it helps people to achieve certain goals by efficiently utilizing money and allocating proper budget for daily activities. It also plays a pivotal role sometimes in finding a proper balance between expenditure and savings.
Thanks, Nidhi, for sharing these golden rules. I'm sure our listeners will make the most out of it.
Thanks, Samta. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Well, to listen to this podcast again, please log on to our website, which is kalkinemedia.com, or visit our YouTube channel. We have a lot of interesting videos over there. Till we see you next with yet another insightful episode of Beyond Just Money, stay apprised and invest wise. With Kalkine, your best guide.